Team, what is up? What is up? What is up? So, first off, welcome back to the 30-Day Prospector Challenge. Number two, I recorded this entire video and this mic was off. So, I'm now doing it for a second time. However, I want that to be a lesson to everybody that sometimes you actually have to repeat things in order to make sure that it gets done in the way that it's supposed to get done. Because realistically, if I had just been like pissing and moaning and decided that I didn't want to move forward with this one thing that actually is super important to this entire process, then what does it mean for prospecting, right? Like eventually you're not going to get 100% take rate on prospecting. So therefore, when things go wrong, you have to adapt, pivot, and actually get back in the saddle and do your thing, right? So again, if you like what you're seeing here, like, subscribe, share it. I want it to get out to as many people as possible. Like, more people need to know how to prospect, because the better the world is at prospecting, the better it's going to force you to get. And the worse the world is at prospecting, half of your prospecting is going to be convincing people that you're not an idiot. And that sucks, because you're trying to get to product, you're trying to get to close, right? You don't want to be convincing people that you're not a moron because they talked to 12 people earlier in the day that like had no idea how to have a conversation with you, right? So I want to hop into likability, because I think this is one of those like core pillars that have to be addressed. Like, it's one of my core five. The reason you have to get likability is because, one, it balances out with the rest, right? And what we talked about already, and talking about confidence, talking about consistency, and talking about just making sure that you have empathy and that you are a human being inside of what you're doing. The reason that you want to make sure that you have likability is because eventually you're going to have more than one conversation with somebody, right? You should never, ever, ever, ever be in a situation where you're only cold calling a person one time. Just because they said no doesn't mean that they're going to say no tomorrow, right? Like, this is where you actually have to get your shit together, right? You document what the conversation looked like. You documented what are the things that were talked about in the conversation. You documented, how they responded to your actual cold call pitch. Like, were they receptive? Were they not receptive? Were they interested? Were they not interested? Was now not a good time? Were they in a meeting? Because this is where the objection actually can help you. All right, so I called on Karen. Karen was in a meeting. All right, no problem. So I'll call back in 2 days from now. Hey, Karen, I know last time I called you in a meeting, I would love to have that conversation. We didn't have a chance last time. Oh, I'm busy. I'm out to lunch. All right, cool. Jot down a note. Out to lunch, right? And this is where you start building up likability. You want to be likable because chances are you're going to call these people more than once, right? The second you're a jerk, the second you're a person that doesn't have any like empathy whatsoever for the person that you're trying to connect to, because remember, at the end of the day, like, you're trying to get them to buy something. Like, you don't need to actually reduce yourself to a level that you're not comfortable with, but understand that you're probably going to call these people more than once, because the answer to everything at the end of the day is pipeline. Like, how many people are inside of your pipeline? How many people can I call today to actually try to make a connection to move forward with somebody inside of my business, right? How many people can I present an offer to? How many people can I get a proposal out to? How many people can I call for secondary money? How many people can I call to actually try to close? How many people am I calling for the third, fourth, or fifth time to try to make that initial connection with them so I can move them forward in the conversation, so I can move them forward in the deal process, right? The reason you want to be likable is because at the end of the day, people have to actually tolerate speaking to you, right? The less they want to tolerate speaking to you, the less they actually have an interest in talking to you, the quicker they're going to be like, yo, don't put me on the do not call list. Once you get that, like, it's over. Like, once you're on the do not call list, like, unless you have 6 or 7 people in your organization that are actually actively making cold calls, you're going to have to hand that off to somebody. If you don't have somebody else inside of your organization to hand that off to, now you can't call anymore, right? So you want to make sure that you find these things, right? Like, even if you hear something in the background, right? Like, if you're calling on Karen and Karen has Susan in the background asking her to do things, just be like, oh man, I remember the last time I had to get mail out to the mailbox. Like, you better run. Like, they don't come that often. Like, make a joke about something, provide humor. Like, humor is one of those things that goes a long way, because at the end of the day, like, this is the same thing with empathy. Like, people can hear you smile. People can hear what you actually like doing. People can hear when you enjoy something. People can hear confidence. Like, like, people have a sensation for when they can tell that they're being bullshitted, right? If you go into every call acting like a scumbag, trying to sleazeball your way into a secondary conversation, a third conversation, and you're just trying to like power move and Chad ram your entire sales product offer or service like inside of this company or organization through the gateway of this person, then like realistically, they're not going to want to do business with you, right? If you even get to the first conversation, even if you make a connection where you actually provide yourself a close, you know what's going to wind up happening? They're going to wind up turning on you, right? They're going to find a way to drop a support ticket or whatever process you have, and they're just going to push. And even if they don't push because they don't feel comfortable enough with actually having a conversation with you, and you don't provide any support tickets or anything like that, they're just going to call their credit card company and churn the process, right? They're going to call the MasterCard, Visa, Amex. They're going to be like, hey, I didn't authorize this. I have no idea what it is. I want nothing to do with this. And then what's going to happen? You're going to have a chargeback request, and it's going to be something else you have to deal with. And these are people that are taking away time now from you getting out in touch with more people, right? Just because somebody says no, don't take it personal. Just because somebody says it's not the right time, don't take it personal. Just because somebody says this isn't the thing for me at this moment in this present time, do not take it personal. Why don't you take it personal? Because it's just not the right buying energy, right? Buying energy changes, right? Like, I wanted a Lambo my whole life. Like I could decide I want Maserati, but I'm not gonna not want a Lambo if it comes across. Like you don't understand. The buying principles inside people change, right? Business fundamentally changes, right? What if you're calling Karen and Karen's at the top of the world right now? She just closed 5 of the greatest clients on the planet. She's inside of her Dream 100 right now. She's doing everything that's the best ever. And then 3 months from now, she's having a little bit more of a hard time. 3 of her top salespeople were poached to a different company. Her COO just quit. Like her money is going under. Like she's in the red when she was in the black. Right. And now you call on her and now you have an opportunity to be like, hey, like I've been calling on you the last couple of months. You have a relationship because you started to speak with her over the course of this time period. Even if there's short like intervals of conversation, like she now recognizes who you are. Oh, that's Daniel from Sasley. All right, cool, no problem. But now her buying situation has changed. Like, hey, can you do me a favor? Like, I'm having some troubles in my business. I would really like to talk about to see if I could be a fit for the conversation that you wanted to have with me. Really could use some additional help from an outside standpoint, right? You never know when it's going to happen because when people have need and when they have pain, they're going to actively explore that need, right? If you don't have that likability to be able to make that phone call consistently over and over again, somebody else is going to get the win based on the effort that you put in to try to close that transaction, right? Just because you decided you want to be a jerk and only call once or twice, right? You didn't want to follow up. You didn't want to do extra work. You didn't want to make a connection. You thought Karen was being rude, nasty, and indifferent. So you said, you know what? Karen can go screw herself. I want nothing to do with that. So Bill over there in another company, in another sales agency, just made an agreement with her. And instead of doing it in the way you did it, he did it on a rev share basis where he's actually ripping her off. And she doesn't know any better because she said yes because of the pain point, right? Think about when you need money in credit, right? People that have bad credit, they'll take a 30% interest rate on a car just to get the car because the car is a pain point. I need to get to where I'm going, right? If I don't get to where I'm going, then what use is anything, right? So you have to kind of think about it like that, right? Like you're moving forward with somebody inside of a conversation, inside of a relationship, but you have to have the likability in order to be able to do it. The second you don't have the likability in order to be able to do it, and you're not going to make those phone calls, and if you don't make those phone calls, you don't make those connections. You don't make those connections, you're going to lose the business, right? Like you might as well count yourself out because even if they do business, it doesn't matter. They're not going to do business with you. You've already lost it. Like it's game over, 100% for you. You need to make sure that you are likable inside of every situation that you have a conversation with somebody because you never know when you're going to have that second conversation. You never know when that second conversation is going to become a third, fourth, or fifth conversation. It could be 6 months from now, it could be 3 months from now, it could be 4 months from now, it could be a year from now. Like, what does your follow up look like through that time period? And we'll go through follow up, we'll go through frequency and all that. But at the end of it, you need the core of being likable. That's the thing that matters most in this game, right? It's part of my 5 core pillars because it's a 5 core pillar. You need to have that likability.